Coming to you live and or pre-recorded, I'm Sven Sandberg from the WTTT studios in beautiful Central Florida, and this is The Time Traveler, random ramblings and mindless musings from a prematurely retired travel consultant with your host, Greg Angstrom. All right. Thank you very much, Time Traveler, for that warm welcome. All right, it's hard to believe that this is already episode number 4 after just 1 week of this mind-numbing adventure. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I promised you that I would share how my executive producer, Sven Sandberg, and I met and became inseparable over this past month. All right, let's talk about Sven for a few minutes, but before we get started, now, Sven, so how are the sponsorship deals coming for the Time Traveler? Okay. Still no ideas? Oh, okay. Well, me neither. I guess we just keep our thinking caps on and move on from there. You know, there's an old saying when you're looking for something that turns out to be close by, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. You know, sometimes an idea could be looming just over our shoulders, but we will keep looking forward. All right. Well, today we're going to get in the time machine and travel back to Sweden in the year 1871. That is the year that my great-grandfather came to America as a 6-year-old boy and settled in Iowa. I figured since Sven is from Sweden and emigrated to America, we would go back to find my nearest relative and his arrival in the States. Now, here's your time traveler quiz for the day. What do my wife and I, Sven Sandberg, and IKEA have in common? Well, for those that have been living in a cave with no contact with the outside world, IKEA is a global Swedish furniture and home furnishings megastore that has operated for 77 years in Sweden and 35 years here in the States. IKEA also has a grocery store with many Swedish products, as well as a restaurant serving up many delightful Swedish delicacies. Now, if you have never been to an IKEA, set aside about half a day, as they wrote the book on one-way aisles meandering through the store. It is basically like a giant escape room that you are just hoping to be able to eventually emerge from. I also think of Thomas English muffins when I think of IKEA. I'm just not sure who came up with nooks and crannies first. My guess is that the supermarkets must have consulted with IKEA on how to set up directional arrows, one-way signs, and wrong way, do not enter signs during this pandemic. Very true story. About 2 months ago, I was in my local supermarket with clearly displayed one-way signs. Now, a visit in the middle of a weekday usually means fewer customers, so I'm getting ready to leave the store, but I have to make a final swing through the freezer section. Now, this freezer section is extra wide, and I do see the do not enter sign, but only 2 other people in the entire aisle. I boldly head the wrong way down the aisle, and as I'm getting near one of the shoppers, he says, "Hey, wrong way." Well, very calmly through my mask-covered face, I said, "I know, it's all right." As I passed him, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "No, it's not!" Well, needless to say, I do not stop, but quicken my pace to exit the aisle and the store as quickly as I could. So sorry to digress, but too good a story not to share. Now back to Sven. Okay, so as my wife and I were wandering through IKEA recently, we happened upon a man sleeping on the Malm design bedroom set. As we neared him, he sprang out of bed. It turned out Sven had stowed away in a cargo container of lutefisk bound for IKEA. Now, if you're unfamiliar with lutefisk, it's a white fish, usually cod, dried to the point that it attains the feel of leather and the firmness of corrugated cardboard. Water alone can't reconstitute the fish, so it's soaked in lye. Yes, lye. Okay? Now, the lutefisk is rinsed, re-rinsed, and rinsed again in water until the lye is gone. Still not on my favorite foods list. Okay, back to Sven. All right, so once Sven arrived at IKEA, he was able to hide out quite easily due to the size and complexity of the store. My wife and I, actually just my wife, took pity on him and asked if he wanted to join us for some Swedish meatballs, mashed potatoes, and lingonberry preserves. Now, no good Swede would ever turn down that combination. As we were heading for the exit, we made a stop at the grocery store to indulge in some cinnamon rolls. So here's a little known fact for today. Cinnamon rolls, or cinnamon buns, actually originated in Sweden in the early 20th century. In fact, October 4 is Kanelbullens dag, or Cinnamon Bun Day, in Sweden. Growing up, cinnamon rolls were a common treat, and that is probably why I consider myself somewhat a connoisseur of cinnamon rolls. The truth of the matter is, you could slap cinnamon, sugar, and butter on an old piece of shoe leather, and I would probably be very happy. All right, well, I've tasted many great cinnamon rolls in my day, but one of the best is from the Silver Grill in Fort Collins, Colorado. Now, it's more like a small loaf of bread, okay? In fact, I just happen to have a picture here of the Silver Grill cinnamon roll, all right? It's more like a small loaf of bread, but it's really a hard one to beat, even at close to $5 per roll. Now, in actuality, IKEA has a pack of 6 for $5, and they are actually quite good, though different than the Silver Grill's behemoth rolls. Good fortune came my way today, as during a quick stop at Publix, our local supermarket, Entenmann's had their buy one, get one promotion on their baked goods. Again, these are nowhere as good as the Silver Grills, but will do in a pinch. Now, I told my wife that we had to get them for today's show. She acquiesced, and now we will have to indulge in these over the next few days. There, my friends, is what we will be eating. Hopefully we'll spread it out over 5 or 6 days, but maybe not. All right, well, back to Sven. All right, lesson number 1. Do not give a Swede Swedish meatballs followed by a cinnamon roll unless you want him to follow you home. You know how a stray animal will stay at your house if you start feeding him? Well, that is pretty much what happened with Sven. If a homeless Swede is provided meatballs and cinnamon rolls, all of a sudden you have a new house guest. And that is exactly what happened, and Sven turned from a homeless Swede living in IKEA to a somewhat competent executive producer of a highly successful YouTube channel. Well, that's all for today, folks, but please be sure to tune in to our next episode as we open the Time Traveler mailbag with some comments and suggestions and explore some of the many aliases and nicknames attached to yours truly. Spoiler alert, I'm kind of a big deal. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Remember to subscribe, share, and like this channel. This is Sven Sandberg for the Time Traveler, random ramblings and mindless musings from a prematurely retired travel consultant.